And in the beginning, a couple of organizational moments. I would like to remind you to limit your report to 10, maybe 12 minutes. So we will have a couple of minutes of extra time to ask you questions and for discussions. Our workshop will follow the program. The order of presentation will follow our program. And the first presentation is online communication simulating spaces for teaching effective foreign language communication. And I pass the word, the mic, to the first presentation, first author.
Okay, thanks a lot. Dear colleagues and the conference participants, you are especially welcome on this rainy day to our presentation, Online Communication Simulation Spaces for Teaching Effective Foreign Language Communication. Communication as such has been long ousted by more sophisticated effective communication. So our primary concern was to analyze how digital tools can facilitate and provide for further development of effective online communication in dangerous environments. The present study continues the previous research in the field of developing mass media technologies by a team of collaborating scholars in Ukraine, of National Technical University Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute with its new branch of Scientific and Methodological Laboratory, and Vasyl Kharkiv National University doing research in the field of foreign language learning and is focused on the introduction of newly developed simulating platforms. The modern trends of effective communication research unavoidably include multimodal studies of communication simulation online and eco-linguistics with its bias to intangible as nonverbal, harmonious communication, and in its present phase, even space simulation through new digital platforms which adhere to the Paul Grice's maxims of communication and Einar Haugen's language ecology. Taking into account the problem of lack of movement in online learning, the present study examines in detail the effect of space simulating platforms on learning effective communication skills and in making learning online a playground full of fun. The aim of teaching foreign languages at our institutions is developing students' communicative competence as a systematic number of skills. The 7 principles, the 7 C's of communication are clarity, conciseness, concreteness, correctness, coherence, completeness, courtesy. The data is obtained from the students' and teachers' interviews. The problem to be solved in the practical part of the study is related to the challenge of developing online communication skills under the state of war in Ukraine, especially in the region of Kharkiv with its total online mode of learning. The initial data of the experiment, the first part of the survey, showed that classes in the format of conventional video conferencing can be perceived as static and partially boring. This fact is explained by neurophysiological processes in the human body. The lack of movement provokes early loss of motivation to study. The movement activities instead activate blood circulation and bring competition into play. In this study, the movement techniques in the learning were implemented based on the theory of mirror neurons. This function makes it possible to simulate movement online by watching, listening, video, audio files during online classes. Using elements of virtual reality constructed and co-working online platforms, communication simulating spaces in this study, like spatial chat, WonderMe, HiHive, make it possible to involve the participants deeper and more impersonally into action. The developed educational model is enhanced by principles of edutainment, or education and entertainment combined. The latter, in their turn, provoke hedonistic effects conducted on platforms like ThinkLink, Learning Apps, Quizzes, Padlet, Quizlet, Kahoot, Virtual Speech, Smalltalk, Explain Everything, WordWall. The application of the results of the research on the effectiveness of interactive platforms in blended learning under the pandemic or e-learning under the state of war allowed us to use the most effective online tools applied to the 7 C's as follows. The novelty of this approach lies in the integration of these well-known tools into simulators of the communicative environment, represented in the study by the 3 already mentioned CSS platforms, Spatial Chat, WonderMe, and HiHi. The distinctive feature is that the volume of the sound you hear depends on the distance of your avatar from its source. Proximity sensors automatically adjust volume levels. The other advantages include messaging and presentations, embedding static images and GIFs, videos, and even separate browser tabs into a common space, customized settings, including changeable 3D backgrounds, expressive and personalized avatars. The experimentally proven model of communication skills training, CSS-based toolkit, includes edutainment exercises that are effectively used in online learning and cannot be implemented on static online platforms. 1, CSS on the warming up stage develop the communicative aspect of correctness, make it possible to transfer a passive vocabulary into active and contribute to forming the skills of teamwork and brainstorming. 2, CSS on the reproductive stage develop listening skills and the speed of perlocutionary reaction to a language message, maximize movement simulation. 3, CSS on the productive stage serve to train communicative formulas, promote the conscious use of language variability, the development of soft skills of cooperativeness and empathy to individualize the approach to the interlocutor, and the soft skill of personal responsibility. To prove the effectiveness of this CSS-based toolkit, there was the second stage of the surveys at the end of the term. In brief, most educators, 66.7%, stated that online communication under e-learning can still prepare for real-life conversation. The enormous numbers from 67.8% to 88.2% of those who claim their learning process is harmonious denotes that the firm basis set by the previous scientific investigations is operating correctly. Also, it is noteworthy that students, when asked about the ways to improve their 7C skills, amongst quite typical answers like more modern textbooks or classes with native speakers, provided one interesting cluster of responses. What is being done is already fine. This signals that university lecturers did succeed in not only maintaining the level of education under martial law, but also in boosting it higher, that can be observed by a significant increase in the 7C skills and media competence compared with the initial level of the experiment. We can observe that the students' proficiency level is rising, while the number of those who are assessed as low pass or satisfactory is decreasing dramatically. The majority of those who answered the questions about the platforms for e-learning and boring effect of online classes recognized the advantages of CSS. To summarize the results of the surveys and the research, the introduction of the new digital product online is crucial for teaching effective communication online, even though the teachers emphasize their preference of blended learning. As for the students' attitude, the majority admitted the problem of lack of motion and some of them boredom of being static, which is easily solved here. However, there are other challenges for teaching effective communication online, namely the relationship issue, the generation gap, the paralinguistics, and the ecology of communication as well as digital literacy, which may be the subject of further investigation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for your report. Please, do you have any questions? Okay, no questions. So maybe I will ask a question.
Yeah.
Please, how do you measure the effectiveness of the communication? How do you know whether it is good or bad?
In the first place, we, to some extent, we go by intuition, and then there are special exercises which give very concrete, very specific results, which we launch at the beginning of the research and at the end of it. And the difference is crucial. It's a huge gap, you know?
Okay.
Just like with native speakers, because here in our experience, we have had a lot of experience with native speakers from the Peace Corps and now with the Oxford speakers, because we have launched this association of Kharkiv-Oxford cooperation, and it helps a lot. There is no difference. You know, native speaking or launching these new platforms online, nearly no difference. It's very effective indeed.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? So if there's no other questions, we are moving to our second report. According to the program, it is an application for hearing impaired that understands signal language from hand gestures. Okay. Are there any reporters, any authors present here? Okay, it seems they are not.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, anybody?
I am Pınar Kırıcı. I will present the paper.
Okay, okay, thank you. Please present your paper. Please share your screen and. Okay, thank you. We are seeing your screen now. So everything seems to be okay. Okay, you can start your presentation. Start your presentation, please.
Yes, okay, I'll start. The name of our study is an application for hearing impairments. Sorry. Hearing impaired that understands sign language from hand gestures. The paper is presented by Muhammed Doğan, Berke Uysal, and Pınar Kırıcı from Bursa Uludağ University. Today, computers which are used in all areas of life and have become an inseparable part of our lives contribute to human life by using advanced object recognition and image processing technologies. Based on all these, the recognition of sign language by computers and its translation into voice and writing will facilitate the work of individuals with disabilities and those who don't know sign language in daily life. And in this study, it is aimed to recognize sign language letters by using image processing technologies and to convert them into sound and text at the same time. And today, the people with hearing and speech impairments communicate through sign language. The biggest problem they face is that the people around them don't know sign language, and therefore it becomes very difficult to communicate. Since sign language cannot be taught to all people, the best way to overcome this communication problem is to use an application. With this application, everyone will be able to understand each other easily without making an extra effort. And the most important part is to know the sign language well, understand its structure, pay attention to internal standards, and approach it as a whole. These operations can be done using object recognition technology. First of all, it is necessary to analyze the sign language letters and create a database for signs using the alphabet. However, there are certain points to be noted in this regard. One of the most important points to be decided will be the size of the database. The size of the database needs to be well adjusted. The fact that the number of data is neither too little, not too much, will negatively affect the situations and functionality. Here, from our references, we try to give a little bit literature review. In our fifth reference, there is a novel dynamic sign language recognition method was given. The method gradually matches sign language gestures from two levels of trajectory and key hand types. And in the next one, in the sixth study, the presented study in the sixth one improved a smart variable American Sign Language interpretation model. The presented smart variable American Sign Language interpretation model aimed to assist hearing impaired person to communicate with society in the best way. And in the seventh study, it is focused on the use of the knowledge of phonology of Japanese Sign Language and dictionary to improve a real-time Japanese Sign Language sign recognition system. The system employs a Kinect version 2 sensor to collect sign features, hand shape, position, and motion. Deep sensor provides real-time processing and robustness against environmental change here. And in the slides, people with hearing loss have difficulty communicating with people with hearing loss or other people like themselves. The gestures, as you know, is an activity. It can be characterized as movements, hands or face frequency that communicates thoughts, sentiments, or feelings such as raised eyebrows, shoulder movements are a portion of the activities people use in their lives. Gesture-based communication is a more formal and expressive type of correspondence. Here, all words or letters are given a particular activity. Gesture-based communication is an all-around coded demonstration of code. Every activity has an appointed significance. Communication with signing is the solder method for correspondence for the hard of hearing. Here we explain the working states of the system as saving alphabet letters and basic person database, taking new images with camera, comparison of the received image with the database, output of the value obtained as a result of the comparison and in next step. And in the last one, it can be, we said that it can be explained as the last output to be transmitted to the user audibly. Here also, we can explain that the default camera on the computer was used for the collection of images and recordings. One of the limitations in the study is the environmental restriction. The environment has been a major constraint factor in the use of images, as the work is constantly intertwined with processes such as image data collection, processing, and detection. The environment should be as uniform and stable as possible in order to properly collect and perceive the images. PCharm CI integrated development environment was used to develop the project. PCharm is an integrated development environment that is highly advanced, especially for the Python language, and offers many advantages to the developer. After the integrated development environment was installed, the libraries and frameworks used in the project were added to the project here. And since hand movements must be recognized in the project, the hand must first be perceived by the program. In order for this process to take place, the camera is first activated and the camera is started with the program in Python with the imshow commands. Then the hand image on the camera is customized for object detection. Three different methods were used in this part. In the first stage, hand tracking was performed using the media pipe library. That is, each joint point in the skeletal system of the hand was shown as connected to each other with lines and points. In this way, certain points of the hand can be controlled and interventions can be made where necessary. And object detection was performed by creating a certain area on the screen and masking the image by filtering in this area. And in the next slide here, the main reason for filtering and masking in the hand detection process is to highlight the object to be detected from other objects in the environment. If there is no image, such as a green screen in the background, the main object to be detected should be highlighted from other objects. This is an important detail for both detection and tracking. And although using frames without a filter is effective in dataset creation and model training steps, it is a method whose performance may vary in different backgrounds. For this, it is important that the background is chosen by the user as a noise-free and flat background. However, in the research, the hand detection process was carried out without filtering or hand tracking in a certain frame area. Therefore, this method was used in the study. And the purpose of adding hand gestures that are separate from alphabet is to switch to detecting the other letter in the word when the perception of a letter is completed. In this way, it is aimed to complete the word here. And if the program doesn't see any word in the frame field, then it just writes blank on the screen and waits for the word to be displayed. Afterwards, the words are displayed displayed one by one, and each displayed word is shown in writing on the screen and transmitted audibly as soon as it is shown. When the end sign is shown, the words displayed on the screen are reset and a new word is expected. And as a conclusion, we can say that one of the most important features of image processing is that it enables us to obtain information about the attributes of the desired object without the need to interact with the environment. Therefore, the presented study has advanced in this direction. And thank you for listening to our presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation and questions. Do you have any questions for our presenter?
May I ask a question?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, dear colleague, my question is about how much is lost, how much of the meaning of the initial meaning is lost in the process of, processing either hand gestures or the tools presented by a new project, because this question has been triggered, by my interest to nonverbal communication in real life communication. And you might know the eminent scholar Mehrabian, who claimed that in real life communication, nonverbal takes a great part, up to 68% of the message intended, even though it's not detailed. If we speak about, basic meanings like agreement, disagreement, being angry, thankful, etc. How much is lost in your case for the people with a hearing impairment?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is a newly started project with our students. For this reason, we try to use integrated development environments now. And we only try to make hand tracking simply. And with camera, we try to detect the objects. And then we try to catch the frame and makes simple filtering methods. For this reason, it's a simple project, but in the future, we will work on the calculations as you talk about. But now we only try to catch the hand and make the hand detection.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, any other questions maybe?
May I ask a question, dear colleague? Is it possible in the near future, perhaps, to use this application for teaching disabled people this mode of communication? So not only to improve the communication, but for didactic purposes.
It can be used in the future because there are many examples in the literature. For this reason, we started to work on this project, but we have to develop it after many developments. It can be used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions maybe? Okay, if there are no more questions, so thank you very much, Pinar, for your report. And we are moving to our next report titled Hybrid 4-Layer by threshold neural network for multi-class classification. Okay. Who's the presenter here? No offer here? Maybe. He will come later. Okay, maybe I see that the offer is registered in our Zoom session. Okay. I'm calling from Władysław Kotsowski. Maybe he has some technical difficulties in connecting. So conference. Okay, I think that we'll resolve this problem. Maybe he will come present at a later time. And I'm moving to the next presentation in our list. It is a presentation titled "A Method for Investigating Links Between Discrete Data Features in Knowledge Bases in the Form of Predicate Equations."
Sorry, Vasyl Kotsowski is here. Can I make my report? Bad connection.
Okay. So please proceed with your presentation.
Excuse me.
It is your turn.
Interrupted connection at the moment.
Okay, it happens. Things happen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Let's start. Recent research proves that bidirectional neural-like models can be useful in the solution of different machine learning problems. But the direct application of a bidirectional paradigm impacted some difficulties. It caused the goal of the current research, namely the design of the network architecture that would effectively use the advantages of bidirectional activation and reduce its weak sides. In the current slide, you can see the definition of bidirectional neuron with the white vector W and two thresholds T1 and T2. The right-hand side shows the graphical representation of basic two-layer neural network with the hidden layer consisting of bidirectional neurons. In the slide number 4, the main downsides of the basic model are reviewed and illustrated in the case of ternary classification in 2 dimensions. Current slide contains the definition of the notion of the center of bidirectional neuron. Such centers can be used to make classification with nearest neighbor rule. The sublayer of phenotype of neurons ensures the desired behavior of the network. Right, you can see the small example of the network performance using WTA neurons. For example, such approaches allows us to properly classify new patterns P2 and P4 as members of the third class. Here, the network architecture is presented, which was designed using bidirectional neurons, marked by double circles, WTA neurons, squares, and single threshold neurons, ordinary circles. It should be noted that addition of first normalization layer necessary for neural-like implementation of distance constraints imposed using WTA and single threshold neuron. Notice that the second hidden layer uses only threshold neurons with 3 inputs, small predefined weights, and thresholds. Here, next slide describes the synthesis algorithm for above hybrid networks. Here is the principal subroutine branch. In the current slide, the main learning algorithm is presented that was designed for the hybrid network synthesis. The capability of 2-layer and 4-layer neural network classifier were tested on the medium-sized and basic recognition of an written digit dataset. The dataset contains almost 11,000 instances. The quality of the performance of classifiers that have treated in the work was compared with the performance of support vector classifier, decision tree classifier, and multi-layer perceptron. The analysis of the experiment results allows us to conclude that proposed synthesis algorithm yielded networks with the almost same accuracy on the training set as neural network 2, but the significantly better accuracy on the testing set. Moreover, a neural network 4 had in average 12% fewer bifacial neuron in the hidden layer. 4-layer neural network 4B had the better classification accuracy and overperformed all considered classifiers except multi-layer perceptron on the testing set. And finally, conclusions. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for our reporter? If there are no questions, maybe I will ask a couple of questions for you. Did you think, are there some practical applications for your classification method? In what kind of practical task it could be employed or used?
It could be employed in the classification task for multi-class classification with medium-sized data set, maybe some pattern recognition task, image classification task, and so on.
Okay, thank you. So there's some kind of limitation related to the dataset size, that medium size datasets.
Now algorithm have time complexity big O of squared m, where m is the dataset length. It implies the constraint on the dataset size, medium size.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, maybe? Okay, so thank you very much for your report. And we are moving to our next report. According to program, a method for investigating links between discrete data features in knowledge bases in the form of predicate equations. Okay, we see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, sure. We see.
Thank you. Good morning, Dear colleagues, our paper is entitled "A Method for Investigating Links Between Discrete Data Features in Knowledge Bases in the Form of Predicate Equations." The problems to be solved here are as follows. In this paper, a method for investigating links between discrete object features will be presented. A classification task in the form of predicate equations should be formulated mathematically here. When analyzing links between the salient data features, we often encounter quite complicated systems of logic equations that nevertheless can be simplified owing to the specific properties of these equations. Excluding extra variables with the help of the quantifiers should lead to the simplification of the original system of predicate equations. And finally, a real-world medical example will be considered to demonstrate the procedure of eliminating non-salient. We have analyzed the latest related works. There are many interesting papers in this field. They are concentrated around logical methods for object recognition and classification. And there are a variety of principal, theoretical, or algorithmic problems here that have been considered. Normally, Boolean equations are considered in such cases. As we can see further, we consider more general cases, such as it is shown here on this slide. When we classify objects using finite algebra predicate equations. The first task is to solve these equations somehow. In principle, this is an NP task, so it has high algorithmic complexity, and there are no effective universal methods for such purpose. So there can be, we can state different problems here to be resolved. For example, find all possible sets of variable values that satisfies these equations. Determine whether the system has a solution, at least one. Determine whether it has a single solution. Find some important combinations of variable values that satisfy the system. Solve the system under some initial conditions. It means that we have some initial conditions, as in the case of differential equations. And then we should find other solutions, or at least one solution. Some systems of equations, predicate equations, have been considered here. And finally, the classification problem has been formulated in terms of predicate equations. As you can see, we can have some objects some discrete variables x1, x2, xn that determine which values the property variables can take on. Properties and features can be connected in the form of some complicated logic dependencies, where x1, x2, xn are features. So objects are associated with features by means of some complicated, maybe very complicated logic dependencies. It should be noted here that these dependencies are can be much more complicated than relational ones, even in the case of linked tables. Here we formulate the classification problem in the general case. It is reduced to solving functional equations with an unknown predicate f that connects objects. Then we have considered some properties of quantifiers. Some of them are obvious, some of them are not, but can be proven. And we built a class of predicates from which we can exclude or delete variables that are not of interest to us. We use both existential and universal quantifiers here, although in the practical example, we limit ourselves to the existential quantifier. This is how these classes are built. So they are built recursively, starting from so-called recognition predicates. Then we consider a real-world medical example that allows us to develop a model for identifying whether or not a patient patient belongs to some group of risk. So this is real-world data. As you can see, there are many features like smoking, alcohol problems, hyperdynamia, arterial hypertension, diabetes mellitus, gender, age, and other things. But here, our focus is on simplifying these equations. For example, we wish to consider some subsets of variables and investigate links between them. Using the above theoretical constructions, we here is an example of such a system of equations, and using the above theoretical constructions, we transform these equations and eliminate some variables from here. It should be noted that it is not always possible, and we should check necessary properties listed above. So this is what we get. We get only 3 variables as a result. Then we can investigate this equation further. We can solve it. We can give some initial values to the variables, and so on. As a conclusions, we should know that finite predicate equations of different types have been considered here. The description of classification problems based on predicate equations have been presented. The problem of object classification on the basis of features taken on discrete values has been described mathematically as a solution of predicate equation, a broad class of predicates from which it is possible to delete extra variables and focus on links between salient variables has been described. A method for deleting non-salient variables by the application of the existential quantifier has been suggested and demonstrated on a real-world medical example. Although some variables in the medical example can take on values unknown, we deal with the closed world, so-called closed world here, as unknown means just an element from the domain for the variable. As you noted, there were some values like unknown, but unknown, this is just an element of the original alphabet. All the domains are strictly defined and cannot be completed with any other elements. The main advantage of this method, based on a specific structure of predicate systems, lies in the fact that after deleting non-salient variables, the original system or equation is simplified, which is due to special properties of quantifiers. Salient variables are not necessarily fixed forever. It is up to researcher to decide what logic connections are important at the moment. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for your interesting presentation. And any question to our presenter? Present this interesting presentation, and maybe okay, if there are no questions, I will thank our presenter one more time, and we will move to our next report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next report is a selection of artificial neural networks for disease prediction. Okay, we see your screen now.
Okay.
Please proceed with your presentation.
So, hello everyone. My name is Lytvyn. I'm glad to participate in our conference. I will present our research of our article, which is called Selection of the Artificial Neural Networks for Disease Prediction. So, you can see our team, which consists of docent Irina Kirichenko, software engineering professor Alexey Nazarov, two graduates of higher education, Nural Guliyev and Alexey Avdiev. So go to the agenda. We will start from the introduction. We'll consider aim, methods and materials, experiment, advantages and drawbacks, and we'll conclude everything which we got. So I can begin. Nowadays, it is quite challenging to process large amount of information for doctors during making decision how it is better to treat a patient. Apart from that, some misunderstandings and difficulties can arise while they try to diagnose their state, which can be injured by a variety of illnesses. And it is worth remembering that specific cases can appear too, which requires other approaches. So our research was consideration existing neural networks and selection suitable one, which must meet the following requirements. It should be taught quickly, it shouldn't take up a lot of memory, and should have high accuracy. And when we talk about selection neural networks, it means that we will consider their pros and cons. In this case, we will solve the multi-criteria task. In other words, we investigated alternative models, their characteristics in order to choose the best one. Such kinds of tasks are solved by two ways. The first one reduces the number of relation criteria and ranks their values. And the second one excludes the best variants before the starting an algorithm. We decided that it is better to consider all available neural networks. So we choose the first approach. The list methods of the first way includes convolution method, image criteria method, distance method, and main criteria methods. The convolution method means that all criteria of alternatives become one common one. The most commonly used are additive, multiplicative, max-min convolution methods. The distance method uses an additional metric, which is called distance. And the main criteria method replaces the one criteria method in a multi-criteria task, but with restrictions. We selected of the convolution, one of the convolution methods, because it is difficult to find the thresholds of the criteria. We choose the additive one because the multiplicative one requires normalization from 0 to 1. In this case, if we have 0, the result is 0, despite of all priorities of the criteria. So you can see the alternative value is calculated by the first formula, where k function is a general criterion for the alternative x, n is a number of initial criteria, and a is a normalizing factor. And the best option is calculated by means of the second formula, where we find the maximum value. During our experiment, we investigated the most popular and widely used existing neural networks. There are coherence neural network, multi-layer perceptron, hybrid neural network, adaptive resonance theory model, and fuzzy-art neural network in our research. By the way, fuzzy-art is modification of ART model. So let's see the characteristics. This table shows neural networks indicators such as learning speed, accuracy, memory capacity, type of teaching, and functions which they are responsible for. For instance, coherence neural network learning speed is 5.3. Its accuracy ranges from 88 to 93%. It doesn't take up a lot of memory. It is taught without a teacher, and it is designed to cluster analysis and so on. So after experiment had been called, we got the following results, which you can see on the diagram. It indicates that multi-layer perceptron had the highest value, and fuzzy-art model took the second place. Multi-layer perceptron accuracy is 98%. It doesn't take up a lot of memory. It is taught quickly, but with teaching, I think that it is not an issue because it means that it just requires an additional information during its application. So let's consider multi-layer perceptron separately. It makes sense to say that it is capable of finding dependencies in complex and tough tasks, regardless of it has sufficient information for prediction or not. and its prediction value isn't up to input data types. Nevertheless, it has such downsides as statistics are better than multi-layer perceptron, and doctors shouldn't rely on its prediction value totally. And to summarize, I would like to emphasize that we investigated artificial neural networks, determined experiment approach for selection required model for medicine predictions, and considered its pros and cons. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your reporting and questions for our report, for our offer. Please ask questions. Okay, if there are no questions, I will ask questions myself. And the question will be, are there any special cases when your method should be used? Or is it this kind of universal method for every kind of disease of every kind of doctor and so on?
Okay, we considered the universal methods, but it can be modified for any cases because it depends on its attributes, for example, and their weights. So in this case, we can add new layers, which will be responsible for processing other new cases of the existing one.
Okay, thank you. And how do you differentiate between prediction of disease and diagnostics or diagnosis of disease?
Diagnosing diseases means that we can find some diseases which can be in these patients. So because patients can have a lot of symptoms and they are suitable for a variety of illnesses. So first of all, diagnosing can help us to simplify and to decrease this illnesses amount. And after it, every illness can be processed separately for understanding which can be in this patient totally.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we are completed our first part of our workshop today, and according to the program, we will have a coffee break until 10:40. So if there are no other suggestions, we will meet at 10:30 after a coffee break. We'll continue our workshop. Thank you for your very interesting presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is titled a deep neural network-based approach to smart contract vulnerability detection. And I see that presenter is here, and I will ask him to start his presentation. Okay, we see your presentation, your screen, so please proceed.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Chaojun Li. And my paper is entitled W2VSC, a deep neural network-based approach to smart contract vulnerability detection. Next, I will proceed. The report is divided into 4 main sections. The first section introduces the relevant background of our research. The second section introduces the general framework of the method. The third section introduces the experiment results. And the fourth section introduces the conclusions. Part 1, introduction. Research background. Smart contracts often have huge economic value and cannot be changed once they are deployed on the blockchain network. The frequent incidents of smart contract vulnerability in recent years have seriously threatened blockchain ecological security. Traditional smart contract vulnerability detection methods also have the disadvantage of poor detection, high leak rates, and low detection efficiency. There are many reasons for smart contract vulnerability, such as code quality issue, logical vulnerabilities, and external dependency issue. We need to understand is the principle before performing vulnerability detections. Our contributions are as follows. This paper proposes a smart contract vulnerability detection method and achieve remarkable performance. Part 2, the overall framework of the method proposed in this paper. There are third parts: word embedding layer, future extracting layer, classification layer. First, the smart contract source code is converted into opcodes in the figure. Opcodes W1, W2, and Wn constitutes a smart contract, and then convert the opcodes into a neural network model into a word vector We. And then we input a mixture of smart contracts with and without vulnerability into the hybrid neural network model to extract features. Finally, we input the unknown smart contract into the trained model for detection. Next, we introduce each module function separately. For the embedding layer, first, we need to have a corresponding opcodes for each bytecode as specified in Ethereum. Subsequently, we use the word embedding model to map each opcode into a 30 dimensional vector. The future extraction layer is composed of CNN and self-attention. CNN extracts some primary feature through local connectivity and weight sharing, then pass into the pooling layer for downsampling, compressing the number of data and parameters. Self-attention can better understand the connection between local context and extract important features. This is a computation process. diagram of self-attention, which calculates the weight of input information, where a higher weight represent more important. The third part is the analysis of experiments results. It can be seen through the graph. During the training process, the training and the test sets have similar curves and are close to each other, indicating that the model is not overfitting during the training process. This paper compares W2VSE with two excellent classification models, thin and fast tests, and it can be seen from the figure that W2VSE outperforms these two models, regardless of precision or recall. The results indicate that W2VSE can accurately detect smart contract vulnerabilities. The F1 score is a metric used to measure the overall performance of the binary classification model. From the figure, we can see that the F1 score of W2VS is higher than that of thin and fast test. When the F1 score is higher, it indicates that vulnerability detection method used in the model is effective. Part 4 is the conclusions. In this paper, we propose a hybrid model based on deep learning, which can fully consider contextual information and can extract features more accurately and quickly in the same environment. So comparative experiments, the method proposed in this paper has excellent smart contract vulnerability detection capability and is more efficient than other models. In the detection test against common smart contract vulnerabilities. In future work, we will focus on studying vector representation methods and future extraction methods. Using sentence vector or other word embedding models to improve the model structure. Combining another neural network to improve our approach. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. And any question from our audience? Okay, if there are no questions, maybe I will ask you a question about what are the sources of knowledge about vulnerabilities? How do you know about those vulnerabilities? Or what kind of vulnerabilities are you testing against?
Thank you for asking that question.
Maybe there are some specific kinds of vulnerabilities, maybe, or some databases with vulnerabilities.
Sorry, my knowledge of this problem is really not enough. I hope to get you guidance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's all right. Thank you. And we'll move to our next presentation in our workshop. Our next presentation is titled Assessment of the Level of Information Provision to Residents of Territorial Communities.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sure.
Good, perfect. Just a second. I'm going to make it to the full screen. Yes, good. Yes, so good morning once again, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure to be here today and to present the result of our survey. So my name is Mariana, and also I'm representing the results of the survey, which was made by Oleg Sorochak, Katarina Protsak, Yaroslav Kis. Also my colleagues. Yes, so here you can see actually the title of our survey. So let me move to the purpose and actually main tasks. Yes, so the purpose of the research is, of course, to assess the level of informing the residents of territorial communities by local self-government bodies about their activity and to determine resident satisfaction with the methods of informing them. Also here on this slide, we would like to present you the main tasks of our survey. Yes, so I'm going to read just a few of them. So the main task for achieving the goal set in the research, yes. So first of all, I would like to say that the main task. I'm gonna not read, not to use the time because you have everything represented on the slide before. So let me move to the second one. Here we would like to present some kind of methods, yes, about our material. So the fuzzy set theory was used to analyze the results of questioning, yeah, and actually find the resulting assessments. So a 5-level fuzzy 0-1 classifier built on actually 0-1 career, yeah, was applied, which allowed describing 5 values of the linguistic variables. Yeah. On the next slide, we actually present the standard 5-level fuzzy 0-1 classifier, and it is built on the trapezoidal membership function. Yeah, so the informing base was of course a sociological survey as a part of the project, and also this project was supported by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, Germany 2021-2022. So the survey conducted by using the questionnaire method among residents of rural areas in 8 territorial communities of the south, central, and of course western regions of Ukraine. So the error of the representatives is actually plus minus 5.2%. So the final sample was actually 3,018 people. So also I would like to mention that it was actually residents over 14 years old. Okay, so here we have results of the survey of residents regarding to the level of their informing by local self-government bodies. Yeah. So to recognize the level of informing residents of territorial communities by local self-government bodies, we will use the same actually standard 5-level fuzzy 0-1 classifier. Yeah, and actually to describe subsets of the values of the linguistic variable information actually level of resonance, we will use actually a system of 5 trapezoidal membership functions. Yes, so the rule of recognizing the parameters level of informing resident based on the value of generalization indicator G, yeah, as we have here presented. Actually, we have presented here on the fourth slide, yeah, and calculated according to the formula is presented here on the next slide, yeah, on the table. So since the calculated value of a generalizing indicator G, yeah, we have 0.55 falls in range of 0.55. So it means that it is less than 0.65. So 0.65. So then the level of informing resident is actually 91% average, yeah, and actually 9% high. Okay, so here in the table, we actually decided to present the result of the survey of residents with the administrative center, so in villages, yes, and regarding the level of informing. So on the 9th slide, we presented the result of the survey of the resident who actually live in administrative center of the community and settlement, yeah, not an administrative center. So since the calculated value of the generalizing indicator GA, yeah, is equal 0.65, falls the range of the 0.65, yeah, G, so it is less than 0.75. So then the level of informing residents living in the administrative center of the community is actually 100% higher, yeah. So on the next slide, we would like to present ways of informing residents about the activities of territorial community authorities, which actually are most often used by the local self-government body, so which actually residents consider the most convenient, yeah. So therefore, the structures of the answers are quite close, yeah, which indicates that local self-government bodies use method of informing community residents about their activities, yeah, which are actually quite convenient for the later. So it means that local self-government bodies monitor the need of residents, yeah, who actually their preferences, yeah, and actually they try to use exactly those communication channels that are convenient for them, yeah. Also here we made some kind of conclusions, yeah, about our survey. So we have main 3 of them, and actually what I want to say that our resident is quite good informed, yeah, according to our survey and according to the result of our survey. So thank you very much for your attention, and feel free to ask questions. It's going to be a great pleasure for me to answer them.
Okay, thank you. And a very interesting presentation. And any question for our presenter today? Maybe I will ask you a question here. So you measure the subjective feeling of people you surveyed, you interviewed in the process of this research about how well they are informed. Yes?
Yes, good.
And maybe it would be valuable also take in consideration, maybe in further research, also the interest specific people take in the community, in their community administration, community information, because if people are not interested, for them, this information is just some sort of harassment and noise, and they simply...
Yeah.
So
yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
People are interested. Okay.
I had a better connection. Yeah, so sorry. Just repeat the end of your question. Yeah.
I just this wasn't a question, more like a proposal or a suggestion. So maybe you will, in further research, you should take in consideration the interest of people.
Yes, of course. It would be great really to make a survey about the interest of people, the interest of communities. Yes. So as we see that in the communities which are really close to the city centers, they are really very good informed. Yeah. So that's why actually it will be great to make one more survey about their interest. Yeah, about maybe something about social projects, yes, which will be really useful for and necessary actually for the communities, yeah, nowadays, because we have a lot of problems, yeah. So actually we made a quite close survey with our students. It was actually about decision making, but we made a survey with a questionnaire with our students. So we asked what kind of actually social projects they will, the people, yeah, and actually the citizen will would like to have in their communities and so on. So this is actually quite interesting, and thank you very much for your proposal. Yeah, of course we will do it in our next survey. Thanks once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving to our next presentation. It is titled Neural Networks for Financial Stability of Economic System. Please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I will
Proceed with your presentation.
show the presentation. About our research.
Okay, we see a screen now. You can proceed.
Topic. Bankruptcy prediction is essential for businesses, particularly in today's rapidly evolving economic landscape. Ongoing research is critical to developing precise and dependable models that adapt effectively to these dynamic changes. Neural networks do well in bankruptcy prediction by detecting relationships between variables and patterns that may elude other models, mainly when dealing with large datasets. These networks have universal quality, enabling them to learn from diverse data types and apply them in various contexts. The capacity of neural networks to understand complex relationships, adapt to assorted data types, and adjust their predictions based on new data renders them an indispensable tool in forecasting the financial stability of economic systems. In conclusion, neural networks are essential for companies striving to predict bankruptcy and make well-informed business decisions. Bankruptcy prediction models analyze a company's financial data to predict the probability of its bankruptcy in the future. These models can be helpful for various purposes, such as early warning, credit risk assessment, investment management, restructuring and recovery planning, compliance, supply chain management, and mergers and acquisitions. The selection of tools for building models depends on the goal of forecasting. Depending on the input data and output results, choosing a programming language and configuring everything properly is necessary to obtain a highest efficiency. Several programming languages can be used to develop neural networks for bankruptcy prediction, such as Python, R, MATLAB, Java, or C++. In our research, we used Python because it has many libraries and frameworks specifically designed for the development of neural networks such as TensorFlow, Keras, and PyTorch. Building a neural network to predict bankruptcy in Python requires a deep understanding of machine learning and financial analysis. The general steps to create a neural network to detect the financial stability of economic system are as follows. The first step is data preparation. Then it goes with feature selection, splitting the data into training and test sets, building a neural network. Then we train neural network on training data, evaluate the model on the test data, then we optimize the model, and then we finally can use it for prediction. These two diagrams on the slide show the total number of companies by business type and financial statements in available open data on official websites. However, this data is not uniform, making it impossible to make calculations, so the analysis is supplemented with companies from only big level section, contributing to the universalization of calculations. Here you can see the distribution of companies by business type inside the previously selected data. A uniform distribution facilitates comprehensive training of the model, delivering good results across various business types. The table presents codes from the Ukrainian financial statement and balance forms that we selected for the subsequent calculations. This slide provides a list of calculated financial ratios based on codes from the previous slide. The highest observed correlation between the financial ratio and bankruptcy status was for the return on assets ratio, with a value of 20%. Employing parameters with correlation ratio up to 20% in recurrent neural networks training is justifiable, as they can contribute valuable insights to discern patterns and associations within the dataset. Adopting a low correlation ratio threshold enables recurrent neural networks to detect and capitalize on nuanced, less pronounced connections between input variables, potentially enhancing the model's overall predictive efficiency. After we prepared the data, we built several types of models. On the slide you can see the optimized versions of them. The first one is a feed-forward neural network. It transmits input data through multiple layers. Each layer comprises a set of neurons that perform linear or nonlinear transformations on the input data. This type of neural network is well suited for bankruptcy prediction tasks, as it can learn complex, nonlinear relationships between inputs and outputs, specifically the probability of bankruptcy. This versatility is beneficial for modeling a range of factors that may impact bankruptcy risks, such as financial ratios, economic activity, and non-financial data. The second and third ones are type of recurrent neural networks. Such networks can process sequential data where each input signal depends on the preceding one. They are particularly suitable for bankruptcy prediction tasks because they can learn temporal relationships between inputs, which can be valuable when analyzing time series data. Furthermore, recurrent neural networks may also help predict the bankruptcy of companies with a history of financial difficulties or financial performance that changes over time. Long short-term memory networks are recurrent and were introduced to solve the problem of vanishing gradients in recurrent networks by adding memory cells that can remember information over a long period. This architecture allows the network to selectively remember or forget information over time, especially when processing long data sequences. A gated recurrent unit network is also recurrent, but with a simpler architecture. During model training, we used the confusion matrix that provides information about the model's errors, while accuracy provides a simple assessment of overall performance. Combining these tools, one can better understand how well a model performs and identify improvement areas. However, it is essential to note that precision may give false results in cases where the distribution of classes is unbalanced. In such cases, it is advisable to use other evaluation metrics such as accuracy, recall, or F-score. The built neural network models have relatively high performance evaluation indicators, which indicates that they predict bankruptcy with a high probability. This is essential for a bankruptcy prediction model, as false positive predictions can have significant consequences. The feed-forward model has the highest accuracy, precision, and F-scores, indicating that it is the best model overall in its ability to make accurate predictions and balance between accuracy and precision. The recurrent models have a lower precision and F-scores than the feed-forward model, but higher recall scores. This indicates that these models can better identify actual bankruptcies, but at the expense of a higher number of false positive predictions. The relatively high false negative rates for all three models indicate a direction of improvement. False negatives indicate that the models fail to identify companies that will go bankrupt, which can have significant consequences for investors and creditors. According to the obtained performance indicators, the feedforward neural network model is the most efficient. However, it may be helpful to investigate false negative predictions further to identify areas for improving this model. In conclusion, the constructed models have relatively high performance evaluations indicators, which denotes that they predict bankruptcy with a high probability. It demonstrates how well the neural networks predict the financial stability of economic systems and allows us to identify areas of improvement. Thank you for your attention. Welcome to the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Thank you.
If you have any question, yeah, you can ask.
Please ask the questions. If there are no questions, I will ask a question about the data sets or
Yeah, sure.
sources of knowledge you use it to train your model. What are and
I think it's the most important part of research because it was hard found in Ukraine really good data for neural networks in finance. So I used open data portal that was created not really years ago. So this data set contains balances and financial statements data for 2019 and 2020 years. Also, I used like bankruptcy register for 2021 and 22 years. So I trained model on this data. As of now, I'm not sure that it is available because of war. Government blocked
the financial information.
Yes, so it can be not available, but I think they will open access after the war or in one moment. So
okay,
this is the answer.
Thank you. Thank you for representation. Okay, any other question maybe? No? So thank you very much for your material. And we move to our next presentation today, assessing flexibility of organization for strategic development of agricultural business projects. Please proceed.
Hello. This paper investigates the flexibility of organization for the strategic development of agricultural business projects. The suggested probit model provides organizations to evaluate and forecast the development of new agricultural business projects based on modeling the flexible business practice. The probit model also informs the investors and partners about the alleged success of projects based on flexibility or the ability to ensure the stable financial condition. Analysis of the factors of strategic development of agricultural business is prerequisite for the study of the flexibility of organizations. Assessment of the flexibility of the organization and factors of strategic development of agricultural business is of great importance for the formation and selection of agricultural business projects. Indicators of organization flexibility or inflexibility can have only two values, 1 and 0. It provides an opportunity to design the probability regression model in which to predict the meaning of probability variables in a little piece of time. The probability model allows to estimate the probability that the analyzed dependent variable will take the value 1 for given factor values. Tables 1 and 2 provide data for a probability model for estimating the flexibility of organizations in the agricultural industry. The described sample included 41 agricultural industry organizations. Probability model can be represented as follows. Probability regression model provides an opportunity to study the probability that the business will be assigned to a particular group of flexibility. The following indicators are used to assess the flexibility of organizations in the agricultural industry: level and quality of innovative solutions, staff expertise, net income per employee. The three-factor probability model provides high reliability, which is confirmed by the calculated value of the chi-square and almost zero probability not to reject the null hypothesis. The characteristics of the received probability model are as follows. Figure 2 shows the dependence of the studied indicator of the flexibility in terms of changing the factor net income per employee for certain values of the factor level and quality of innovative solutions and the fixed value of the factor, that is, the growth of net income per employee for different values of the level and quality of innovative solutions and fixed values of staff expertise leads to an increase the flexibility of organizations. Figure 3 shows the dependence of the studied indicator when changing the factor, level and quality of innovative solutions for certain values of the factor, staff expertise, and the fixed value of the factor. That is, increasing the level and quality of innovative solutions for different values of staff expertise and fixed values of net income per employee leads to increase the flexibility of organizations. Figure 4 shows the dependence of the studied indicator when changing the factor, staff expertise, for certain values of the factor, net income per employee, and the fixed value of the factor. That is, increasing the level of staff expertise for different values of net income per employee and fixed values of the level and quality of innovative solutions leads to increase the flexibility of organizations. Now we need to evaluate the flexibility of a new projects of creation of organizations, business with a probate model. Information on the flexibility of a further agricultural business project is presented in the table. The outcome of the settlement on the flexibility of a further agricultural business project are presented. The outcome illustrates that the first and the second project is the best flexibility. This may entail engaging internal and external stakeholders extensively in the strategic development of new agricultural business projects and business processes. For high flexibility, a probate regression modeling way to predict the future development of the organization and to consistently link factors influencing flexibility is essential. It has also been found that the assessment of the flexibility of organizations gives a new insight into behavior of projects. This information is also essential for contributors of investment market and other financial institutions or individuals who want to develop a business environment and take profits from investments. Thank you.
Okay. As I understood, you completed your presentation. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, we have a bit of time, half an hour of time till the next third part of our workshop today. So now we will have a coffee break until 11:45. I thank all participants in our workshop and invite them to our next part of workshop.
Fake news has become a serious problem in recent years, such as they quickly spread through different social media and online platforms. These platforms sometimes lack verification for user, their identity, and they can lead to spread of false information, like targeting some political party, individuals, in general society, and move opinions, move organization in different direction, and in general influence opinions. The problem we can split in three different categories right now is continuous growth of fakes, such as a lot of services being introduced, introduction of popular AI and more usable AI to use, for example, like ChatGPT and other bot systems, and in general that social media becoming bigger and bigger every year. Also, analyzing context is becoming harder and more biased because not every tool possible to detect contents of fake news, such as this work is more for a human. And because of this, new approaches should be created for these changes that also could be adaptive for future changes and future approaches for fake news creation and then detection. In related works, we can discuss different approaches that have been done before. Is approaches that are based on deep learning models, on using, for example, n-grams, using approaches with term frequency inverted document frequency, where they detect number of terms, words in the text, and then detect if news is fake or not. However, these various approaches can have their weaknesses, such as inadequate quality of the data, because for detecting real news, you need to have a big data set, which always updated, and sometimes it's hard to achieve. And as we know, fake news spread every day, and new information created, and these data sets cannot be updated in real time. So challenges that we can face and detect and then try to fix is the lack of quality label data set. As I discussed, that this is a big problem. Second is flexibility of approach. Existing approaches, if they have one and not flexible way of doing, they could be outdated because of information change. And third challenge is lack of context, which more like currently human work to understand context and depending on it, fix or not fix, detect fake news. General solutions that we propose is detecting in adaptive way feature vector, which is constructed for generalized text characteristics that will be abstract and not be related to words. And in this way, it could be more flexible. We can add new parameters, we can remove parameters in the future and make it more adaptable than just existing approaches with existing solutions. For implementation, we have used a different, first of all, let me tell about the process of implementation. It consists of 5 steps: preprocessing, getter parameters, classificator training, classificator validating, and then comparing results and detect accuracy. In general, for implementation, we have used Python language with spicy libraries, such as it proposes a lot of useful tools for entity name recognition, part of speech tagging, dependency parsing. It also has different pre-trained models, and as a plus for future, it has Ukrainian language to work with Ukrainian language. Another language library has been used is scikit-learn. It's known for its multidimensional functions and support vector machine capabilities. So about preprocessing. Preprocessing is standard natural language process where we clear our text by removing different irrelevant information such as stop words, punctuation, numbers, irrelevant mistakes, etc. Also, this preprocessing includes tokenization, part of speech tagging, lemmatization, and it has a lot of different things that will help us in future, such as sentiment analysis, subjectivity analysis, and other stuff. When we detect our parameters, we have split in general text 4 categories, and what we can take from each category. First category is persuasion and influence. It expresses preference or bias towards some particular group or belief system. For example, if news always criticizes one political figure, for example, Donald Trump, in our dataset, we can always see that our news related to one public figure could be marked as fake, even if they're not. So in general, when we want to see persuasion and influence, we can detect paraphrased ratio if it's when same idea is represented in text a lot of time, and we see in fake news and in biased news when they repeat same narrative over and over again, even though it's like repeated in every paragraph. Second, we can take dehumanizing language is when we do some deprivation of human figure, like name those figure in not correct way and other stuff. And subjectivity word ratio is a tool that will help us to take from spicy is like general English terms that word could be objective or subjective. It's built in our spicy library, those coefficients, and in general in English and other languages. Next is narrative, and narrative is also one component of detecting fake news, and it's important to have clear and consistent narrative that is related to headline and overall over text. So if we have headline about one thing and in text we discuss and have narrative for other things, we can see that our mismatch in header and in summary, which is usually bad and more that is more detectable among fake news. The last one group is sentiment and linguistic analysis. It's important parts for identifying unusual and illogical textual structures, such as fake news may contain different statements which could be contradictory and not used in regular language. For example, it could be unusual and inappropriate language, awkward text, and for sentiment, we can detect positive, if text is positive, natural, or negative, and overall sentiment across the news. Next, classification and validation. We have been using multidimensional scaling, is MDS, to make our 10-vector array two-dimensional. And to validate it, on the A, we see perfect world example when we have one group on the left, other like on the right, and correct and strict difference between them. Our example will be more on the side C because we have real world data set and we can have mix in the middle of real and not real news. Next, for our training classificator and analysis, we have been using SVM, which is supervised learning model. And because of this model, we can detect different metrics for our results like precision, recall, and F1. For results, different number of results have been made, and particularly on this image, we can see that like 2,000 items have been used. Green is true and red is fake news. And as we can see, our validation looks more like number C because we have all news cannot be detected as fake strictly or not. And but in general, we have achieved with SVM at some cases more, in some cases less results, different depending on number of news. And in general, like 80%, 85% is a good number to start with detecting our fake news. So conclusion, the approach of adaptive detecting fake news incorporates 10 different parameters. And as we discussed, using MDS and SVM for achieving high accuracy and detecting and then validating fake news detection. While our limitation also include absence of high quality data at this current stage, this approach is capable of grow, add new parameters, new features, and could be retrained with new parameters. The goal is to increase accuracy and of identifying fake news. The proposed approach could also be extended to have things like fact checking with some Google API or just search because it will give more context. Also analyzing social platforms. For example, if we currently only check news from BBC website, we can check BBC Twitter to check how people react, what toxicity inside comments, how much supporting, and all these parameters are flexible and could be used as like some kind of classificator where we can increase importance of some parameter and can decrease. And also we can add things like detecting AI generated context and content, which also can tell us more about if this news is not made by human and maybe with some reason person used AI to generate some not relevant information. That's it. Thanks. Happy to answer questions if you have. If not, thank you for listening.
Okay, any questions for our presenter? Okay, I don't see any questions. Maybe I will ask you the questions. I had the questions, but I heard your conclusions and partly you already answered my questions. How do your system, at the present time, as I understood, your system works only analyzing the language, the different patterns in language. And maybe in the future, how do you plan to incorporate the checking of facts, fact-checking in your system? Because it is a large part of the fake news.
Yes, I already have been looking on different solutions on the internet. For example, some solution incorporate like human, where they hire human to check facts and to say if this is fake or not. For our system, of course, it's not an option. And I already checked solution like Google Fact Check API. They have, like in general, we can search for facts like if someone has been elected, if we need to do something and we have some present like past event, and if it's valid, because in fake news you can say everything, and if it's not has been like it is, it gives more our like understanding that this could be something wrong with it. So yes, using like adding standard function from some API like Google API, maybe we can have like some paid API, because I have looked among different solutions. Some solutions are paid. Yes, so we can have different APIs.
Thank you. And I have a thought, maybe not directly related to your work, but can you system identify the target of fake news? Who is targeted against such news? I mean, some specific political person, for example, or political party, or some narrative or set of ideas in the society. Can we determine such thing?
Currently, we can determine it only from textual perspective. It cannot be right 100% because currently it's depending on the text. And if we have like name, like entity, like you said, political figure, we can detect it that a lot of text is about this person, but maybe after we implement some contextual and context, because it's hard to do, new AI could be added. For example, like ChatGPT or GPT-3, GPT-4 models could be added to do it. Currently, it's more on technical level from text, but in future it could be more reliable, such it would be from some more and bigger language model.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, everyone.
So we are moving to our next presentation. It is titled Technology of Fake News Recognition based on machine learning methods. It's somehow related to our previous report. We see your screen.
Yeah, okay, everything is okay. So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Oksana Marki. 1 minute, I should. Okay, and I would like to present our team work. It's a technology of fake news recognition based on machine learning methods. So our work develops upon the system for detecting fake news in the internet based on machine learning. When choosing the algorithms for work, various algorithms were used. It was revealed in the result that in order to identify propaganda and fakes, the best variant is to use the method of k-nearest neighbors. They are logistic regression and multi-layer perceptron. And for the simultaneous recognition of fakes and not fakes, the best are the logistic regression and multi-layer perceptron. And this is more profound written in our article in paperwork. So the object of the study is large number of fakes, which creates many problems for ordinary user. The subject system for recognition, and the aim of research is to create a system that can recognize fake news via the internet based on such methods of machine learning. So tasks are to analyze the requirements, describe the functions, compare existence analog system, because there are a lot of analog systems for detecting, but they have different pros and cons, and choose a software solution and implement the software too. So in our work, we have studied 7 different methods: bias classifiers, random forest, multi-layered, logistic regression, k-nearest neighbors, tree of decisions, and linear regression. And schemes and table of comparison of pros and cons of such methods are described, and results are done. So when choosing a language, for programming language, I mean, for our work, came down to 2 options, Python and R language. But we have stopped on Python because it has simple and clear syntax, Ukraine language, ready-made libraries, simple, clear documentation, and is really popular. And Anaconda has been chosen for its versatility. Speaking about libraries used for our work, we have worked upon pandas, NumPy, cbarn, and these libraries. And what about our data set? It's a Kaggle CAM data sets. It's creating program data sets, almost 21,000 articles have been used. So all of them were publicly available and taken from the Kaggle resource, where it's possible to find many data sets and different topics in different formats and sizes. Of course, in the future, I suppose that we will use other maybe materials and resources in order to profound this investigation. But at the beginning, it is like as it is shown in our screen. So here you can see the use case diagram for the fakes news system. And what I can say that the main actors, it's user and administrator, and main roles of user is depicted in this use case diagram. Check the resource, check the reasonability, determine, make the first settings, install software so you can get acquainted with it. And description of the extended case scenario according to RUP was done and presented in the work in previous slide. And main actors, user and administrator, and high-side usage options were depicted. And here you can get acquainted with class diagram for the fake recognition system. So when constructing the class diagram, 5 main classes have been identified. It's a user reader, news site, system, databases, administrator. So here we can see different attributes concerned to different classes. Here it's a flow chart for fake news checking system. There are 8 different steps. 9 are the software, setup work, compare, evaluate news, and are. So it's like a description of our practical work in schemes and diagrams in order to make it more visible and more understandable. Here is activity diagram, state diagram, what does it mean, and a deployment diagram, what it conclude. Yeah. So here on this slide, it's one of screens of functionality of our program. Develop program. More screens are in our paperwork. So for more questions, you can ask and write for our mail. We can give information about this program, but this slide just demonstrates in general what does it mean. So Here there is it's English and also it is in Ukrainian language. It can be, you can choose language, Ukrainian, English. And what we propose, we give some parameters for precision. Here you can choose algorithm selection, for example, decision tree. Here you give a text and here you receive some result. So it's a value and all parameters are described also with this explanation of different values. Yeah, so here there is an experimental part just in diagrams and photos. It's like metrics and graphs built by program using different methods, because as you have seen from this slide, you can use algorithm selection. So for example, for decision tree, it's a decision tree results, basis regression program, and others. So after developing the program, the folder with all the necessary files for work should be received and should be downloaded. So that's why it's possible to choose language, English or Ukrainian, and to download all text and understand the situation. And here there is short results, yeah, so in values and in figures. So for example, using the decision tree, the accuracy for identifying fakes is 0.993, non-fakes 0.98, and others. So it can be shown that for different types of fakes, different types of propaganda, and for detecting fakes and non-fakes, different combinations of such methods can be used and can give more maybe profound or not profound results. Yes. So of course this should be investigated and in comparison with other methods, but we propose such scheme for now. So as conclusion, of course, system for detecting fake news has been designed and it was attempt to create it based on issues of recognizing fakes, of peculiarities of fake news, and program we hope that gives more than 95% of accuracy, taking into consideration different methods and different algorithms and data sets, of course, of Kaggle data sets. So thank you for attention, and if you have questions, please ask.
Okay, any questions to Oksana? No questions? Okay, maybe I will ask a question because my question will be as following. Did you run or test your system using some sort of real world news, or maybe it is?
We have, yeah, in our work, we have used in general information based on previous years, yes, but such as new, it was taken into consideration English newspapers. So newspapers in English, such as BBC and others. Yes. But of course, this investigation, it's like not more profound as we want, but like beginning as proposition of working in such a way, it can be used. Yes, and it will be profound later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Any other questions maybe from other people? No? So thank you once more. And we'll move to our next presentation. It is named International Methods and Models for Assessing Level of Student Adaptation to Online Learning. So I invite our presenter to.
Hello. Okay.
Okay. We see.
Can, yeah?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Okay. Okay. Good. I'm happy to see you all. My name is Dmitro, and today I'll be presenting my work on the topic intelligent methods and models of assessive level of student adaptation to online learning, done by me, Anastasia Dorshenko, and Vasyl. So let's start. The problem introducing online learning is becoming more and more popular in our society. Due to COVID-19 and war in Ukraine, there is urgent need for the transitioning of students of different type of education institutions to online learning. So this work will help people not make mistakes in the process and afterwards. The paper's primary purpose is to investigate the effectiveness of machine learning tools that can solve the problem of assessing student adaptation to online learning. This would include intelligent methods and models such as classification techniques and neural networks. Object research is determining processes that solve classification problem. And it's necessary to find out what classification is, how it performs, and what by what methods. Usually, there's only two forms of data analysis, with which you can get models that describe classes or predict the future data trend. These two types are as follows: classification or prediction. These classification models predict categorical labels of classes, while predictive models predict continuous function, like numerical values. Here you can find the dataset that was used in our work. Here you can see independent features like gender, age, institution level, institution type, studied in IT, is location of student in town, load shading, financial condition, internet, and others. And one dependent feature like adaptivity level with low, moderate, and high. And the exact values for each independent characteristic you can see here. This slide represents the exact values of the dataset. As you can see, all values are string values, so we need to take this into account in future. The next step, let's take a look on this graph. It represents distribution of student adaptivity to online learning. For example, as you can see, low adaptivity level have almost 40% of students, moderate 52% of students, and high adaptivity level have only 8.3% of students, and it's only 85 students. Next step, correlation matrix. Here we can find out that most dependent characteristics are education level and age. But for others, this relation is quite small. So this may indicate that no further operation on the dataset need to be performed. Such operation can be something like principal component analysis, normalization, or regularization. Here, I'll show you a neural network model that will use it in our work. As you can see, we have 4 layers. One layer for input with 13 neurons, one for each independent feature, 2 hidden layers with 100 neurons on each, and 1 output layer with 3 neurons, one for each of value target class. For example, height, moderate, and low adaptivity level. Also, the good example is this bar. It's called permutation feature importance, but only for classifiers. X-axis represents value of feature importance, and Y-axis represents features ordered by importance. For example, we saw that the most important characteristics are length of daytime up to 1 hour, gender male, load shedding low, type of situation government, location not in the city, presence of learning management system, yes, belonging to IT, yes. The less important are type of internet connection, Wi-Fi, length of lessons from 1 to 6, low financial condition of students using phone as a device for learning, and age from 21 to 25. On this slide, we can see permutation is important for neural network. It's slightly different because it shows importance values of features for each epoch of neural network training. Also, here x-axis represents influence of the variable on the quality of the classification model, and y-axis represents features ordered by importance. For example, most important are financial condition, gender, internet type, language management system, and least important are load shedding, location of student, and device used by student. Here, I show some example of model creation and classification. I used a random forest here. As you can see, it was executed. It was executed 10 times, and mean values you can see here. Accuracy was something like 88%. Confusing matrix of high, low, and moderate target class. You can see here. Next step, a model comparison. In this work, was used this type of classifiers. As the back classifiers for our target random forest, extra tree, and extreme gradient boosting with accuracy 8%. And the worst classifier are dynamic classifier, quadratic discriminant analysis, and naive bias with this values of accuracy. But on the right side, you can see accuracy of self-created neural network, and it something like 91%. So here I will show you some practical example. I use it here, 2 boys and 1 girl with low boys with low adaptivity level and girl with average adaptivity level, and other values. One more time, left side represent classifiers and right side represent neural network. As you can see, 2 boys were classified correctly as low adaptivity level, and 1 girl with moderate. And this shows the probability of our classification. Now, for neural network, I used only 1 student with moderate adaptivity level, and as you can see, actual adaptivity level was 1. It represents moderate, and predicted is also 1. So, as a conclusion, I can say that Pepper investigates the effectiveness of machine learning tools that can solve the problem of assessing the level of student adaptation to learning. You can have research and find the most effective intellectual model or method to perform the task, which is to assess the level of adaptation of student to learning. The practical value of the work is the development system always using a few simple questions with high quality and accuracy to assess the level of adaptation of student to learning. The main perspective for developing the work includes the fact that the system can provide much better results after creating a more extensive set of data, which requires a survey of more students. The system is flexible, which will allow to implement more classification model if necessary. So, question time, if any.
Okay, please ask question. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. There's no question for you. Thank you. Okay, we can move to our next presenter now. So you can stop sharing your screen, and we can move to our next presenter now. Next presentation is method for sentiment analysis of Ukrainian language reviews in e-commerce using Roberta neural network.
Yes.
Please proceed.
So good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. My name is Olga Zavudska. I'm a student of the master's degree program of computer science at Khmelnytsky National University, Ukraine. Dear colleagues, I'm pleased to present you the topic of the research. It's a method for sentiment analysis of Ukrainian language reviews in e-commerce using Roberta neural network. In recent years, the analysis of emotional tone of text messages as a basic for determining their information value and the identification of important user sentiments, which is a part of a natural language proceeding, has attracted the attention of scientists. This is due to the growth of the possible areas of application. Text message sentiment analysis is a method of extracting and recognizing user ratings of products, services, and models, and has various approaches using machine learning algorithms to classify the emotions behind the text. For example, sentiment analysis of tweets to understand people's perception on certain use, evaluation of human-robot interaction, and formation of a recommendation system for choosing products, services, etc. Here you can see features of the e-commerce services and reviews. Based on the purpose of the study, the tone assessment will be conducted in relation to e-commerce reviews. In its turn, e-commerce reviews have the following features. There are limited amount of content, small amount of content, and use of surjik, trick words and professional words, jargon, and integrated multilingual content. We used the dataset of responses from the Hotline platform. This choice of experimental data is due to the fact that we are interested in conversational Ukrainian language content, which should be also labeled. The evaluations will be based on the ratings of customers who write reviews, where did not recommend means negative review and recommend means positive review. The training set didn't include data with other ratings. To extract the reviews, appropriate software based on the Crowley library was created, and further proceeding using C#. Platform divided into two categories, positive and negative. In total, the dataset consists of over 7.5 thousand documents, with 6.5 in the training set, and 1.3 of them were used for validation, what may be seen in the first picture. Two other pictures illustrate the distribution of positive and negative reviews in the dataset. Choosing neural network. BART was designed to help computers understand the meaning of ambiguous language by using the surrounded text to understand its meaning. However, as already studied, neural networks such as Ukrainian Roberta, Ukrainian Electra, and XLM are large tend to perform the best. Although XLM are large and Ukrainian Electra tend to perform better on longer text, while Ukrainian Roberta significantly outperforms the other models on shorter sequences. Since the study is conducted on text of reviews, it was decided to use Roberta neural network. Selecting a semantic language model. Roberta neural network variation is a variant of BERT model developed by Facebook artificial intelligence researchers. Like BERT, Roberta is a transformer-based language model that uses self-awareness to process input sequences and create conceptualized representations of words in a sentence. One of the key differences between Roberta and BERT is that Roberta was trained on a much larger dataset and used a more efficient training procedure. Here you can see the classifier architecture. The neural network configuration based on the selected dataset and neural network type has the next structures, as you can see. The obtained indicators for evaluating the functionality, such as training time, accuracy, and losses of various parameters of the model settings. There are numbers of training epochs, seeds, and batch size of neural network classifier are shown in this table. As you can see, model V1 has the highest accuracy score of 0.92 and the lowest loss function of 0.29, while model V6 has also an accuracy score of 0.92, but a loss function of 0.30 and a much higher training time. Despite minor deviations in accuracy, almost all versions of the trained models on real-world examples produced results similar to the expert opinions. Classification of the tone of reviews. Considering that the tested version of Roberta is a multilingual transformer trained on bilingual data, the neural network shows no problem with sentiment identification as illustrated in the next table. The training set was not manually cleaned, so it's possible that there may be a certain percentage of misclassified reviews, but this doesn't have a significant impact on the final accuracy. Next figures illustrate the change in the accuracy parameter depending on the epochs passed and the changes in the loss function for the combination of V1 training parameters. The next graph indicates that the number of training epochs is not enough to stabilize the result, as the accuracy indicator tended to increase and the loss function indicator tended to decrease without stabilizing the same level. However, by continuing the experiment and changing the number of training epochs up to 10, the next results were obtained. Since semantic analysis based on the neural network approach is a current area of research, there are also some developments for the Ukrainian language. There is a pre-trained multilingual preprocessing model that also works with Ukrainian and more than 50 other languages. In addition, the analysis of tone estimation showed the neural network coped with the task without any errors out of 40 phrases that were not in either the training set or test samples, and that was these samples had been previously evaluated by an expert. This indicates that the neural network really understands the context. Some hesitation in the neural network occurs in case of really short messages. In conclusion, the analysis has shown that this area is relevant, in particular the use of neural networks to classify the sentiments of the text documents, which gives a higher classification accuracy than alternative approaches. The Burov architecture was identified as one of the most accurate neural networks, but its modification Roberta proved to be better for analyzing short documents. The accuracy and loss functions were used to evaluate the performances of the proposed architecture. For the combined multilingual reviews, an accuracy of 0.92 was obtained, while the loss function had a value of 0.29. That's all for me. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And answer questions for our presenter. Any questions? Okay, maybe I will ask a question for you. What kind of application do you see for your mood analysis system?
Thank you. It's really, I guess it's really important question for this work, because we can make like a small widget in different internet applications, like small bots or widgets in Chrome, Opera browsers, etc. And we can analyze already existent reviews and small articles in the internet and make some conclusions about services, about products, about maybe some news, and already know the result and impact of these things on our life. It could be also like a desktop application, but I see a small web widget.
For example, could your application will be used to summarize the customer reviews, for example, for specific products? So when the visitor to a specific site will not need to read all the reviews, it will see at one glance how this specific product is evaluated or assessed by customers.
Yes, it would be great, and developers can make unit with existing reviews and small window like with summary. Here, for example, there is positive reviews, there is negative reviews, and you can make your own conclusion, buy this or not, use it or not. Yes, it would be great. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have next our last presentation in our workshop. It is technology of Ukrainian English machine translation based on a recursive neural network. The last presentation. Okay. Do you have our presenters today? Technology of Ukrainian English machine translation based on recursive neural network SLSTM. I see that we don't have an actual presenter today. So I have an occasion to once more thank all our presenters for very valuable and interesting presentations. And till the next time. Okay. Maybe you have some questions related to the conference or